Hello, my name is Natsume, and I'll be co-hosting with HK for all you fellow hunters out there.
Welcome to our video on elemental damage and status conditions.
So let's start with your weapon. Just like your weapon's attack value in our last video, you will see that the status value or elemental value is pretty high. That's because they too use a multiplier.
It's a trap!
But it's a lot simpler than the multiplier for different weapons. To get the true value of your element or status, simply divide it by 10. Now that we have that out of the way, let's start with the elemental damage.
There's 5 types of elements: fire, water, ice, thunder, and dragon. Most weapons have a single element on them, and some dual blades have 2 different types. Bowguns don't have elements, but come with elemental shots, depending on the bowgun.
But the bows still do have elements, despite being a non-melee weapon. So elemental damage is worked out just like this. You have the true element on your weapon, you have the monster part defense, and you have your standard invisible modifiers. So it's a lot simpler than working out raw damage, as it doesn't depend on your motion value. Let's go through an example for elemental damage. Let's say you have a longsword that has 10 fire element on it. First, you divide 10 by 10, which is going to give you 1. So your actual true fire damage is 1. You then multiply this by the defense of the part of the monster that you hit. Let's say we're hitting a monster's leg, for example. Let's say it takes 100 damage of fire on the leg. So, you divide 100 by 100, and that gives you 1. That's the multiplier for its fire defense on its leg. So, you take the multiplier for its leg, which is 1, and the fire damage of your element, which is 1. So in this case, every single time you hit the leg, you'll be dealing 1 fire damage in addition to any raw damage you're doing. As a heads up, in Monster Hunter World, you now see the damage figures when you hit the monster. Your element and raw damage is not calculated separately in these. It will come together as one figure. Now let's move on to how statuses work, because they're fairly similar to elements. Their true value is whatever's on the weapon divided by 10. But unlike element, you only have a 1 in 3 chance of your weapon actually applying the status every time you attack. The main type of statuses are poison, sleep, and paralysis. There are a couple others, but we'll go through them at a later date because they're more complicated.
Imagine a monster has an invisible bar for all the status conditions. This bar is the monster's initial tolerance. Once full, it will be affected by that status condition. Example: a monster's initial tolerance to paralysis is 140, and your weapon has 140 paralysis. First we get the true status. 140 divided by 10 equals 14. We would need to apply this 14 paralysis to the monster 10 times before getting paralyzed, as 10 times 14 equals 140. But on average, 1 in 3 hits will apply the status condition. So 3 times 10 equals 30. So we would need to hit the monster around 30 times to paralyze it.
So after the monster's been affected by a status condition, its initial tolerance to that status will increase by a fixed amount. For the scenario we had before, let's say that the initial tolerance was 140, and the increase in tolerance is 70. So after you've paralysed it once, you've got the 140 initial plus 70, so its new tolerance to paralysis is 210. So to paralyse the monster again, we'd have to do 210 divided by the paralysis on your weapon, which in the example is 14. That gives us 15. But again, you only have a 1 in 3 chance of actually dealing the status, so we have to do 15 times 3. So on average, to paralyse it a second time, you'd need to hit the monster about 45 times. And after that, its tolerance will increase again by 70, taking it from 210 to 280. However, it won't keep increasing. It does have a cap. So, monsters have an initial, increase, and a max tolerance for every single status in the game. However, it can differ between monsters. As a final note, because both elements and status conditions aren't affected by motion values, faster hitting weapons, such as the dual blades, are therefore commonly known to be better at dealing elemental damage and applying status conditions to monsters. Now, we've touched a little bit on motion value and monster defense, but not enough. So, in our next video, we'll be covering motion values and monster defense. A big thank you to Wolfie Melon for the beautiful Monster Hunter covers she does that are playing in the background of the video. If you want to see more from her, check out her channel, it's in the description down below.
Thanks for watching, and bye for now. Bye!
Thanks for watching, and if you found this useful, please leave us a comment, and if you're feeling up to it, drop us a like too. It helps the videos. Let's say a monster has an initial paralysis tolerance. Yeah, tolerance, because that's a word.
We will need to apply this 14 paralysis to the monster 10 times before paralyzing it. Not good enough, child, not good enough.
And if you want to set fire to a pig, you can. Just grab an elemental weapon with fire on it, find a moss wine, and make yourself some jerky.